check, 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 check,
Good afternoon, everyone. My request you all to please keep standing while I read a verse from the Bible and a prayer, starting prayer. The reading is taken from Revelations chapter 21, verses 1 to 4. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away." Let us pray. Almighty God and everlasting God, you are always present to help us in our trouble and shelter us when we are overwhelmed. Grant that your presence be more real to us than our sorrow. Fill us with faith in you and brighten our heart with light and peace through the promise of Christ. Lord, you are the refuge of the living, the rest of those who have died, and hope of the whole creation. We praise you for all your saints who have departed this life with their faith in the risen Redeemer. And now we especially thank you for your servant, Tasneem, who is no more with us, but your promise of life in Christ fills our moment of sorrow with hope. We thank you, O Lord, for all your loving kindness to her through the years of her earthly life, for all that she was by nature and by grace to those who loved and cherished her. One by one, you are gathering your children into the world of light, and we praise you, O Father, for this pilgrim who has now finished her earthly race and has entered the city of God. Amen. Please be seated.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Sabina Kazmi from the Department of History. We have all gathered here in memory of our dear teacher, a valued colleague, and a beloved member of the St. Stephen's family. On behalf of the entire college community, I would also like to extend our deepest condolences to her family and friends. You will remain in our prayers and thought. It has been difficult to come to terms with Tasneem ma'am's absence. The permanence of her loss has not sunk in yet. While we mourn her, today we have come together to share our memories and pay our tributes to her. We want to pay our respects and celebrate a life which has had such a lasting impact on so many of us. Her loss has been immense. It has left so many of us feeling bereft and unmoved. But we also want to share and reminisce about our time with her. We have Tasneem ma'am's family members, friends and colleagues, students from former and current batches who want to share and pay their respects. May I ask Dr. Neerav, Head of History Department, and the Dean of Academics to come up and share his fondest memories of ma'am.
Good afternoon, Nilofer, Bhabhi, Atif. principal, colleagues, and students. Perhaps it is one of the toughest moments of my life. I never thought that I'd be standing here once again to speak about somebody in the past tense. I've done that for my other teachers who taught me, Lady Sahab, Amin Sahab, Dr. Baker. But as Mahesh was telling me, God's wish has to be accepted. Tasneem was more of a sister than a colleague to me. More so after her brother passed away. I sent her a small message, not very profound, just said that I'll try and not let you feel the absence of your brother. And every time Tasneem remembered me, she used to send that message to me, say that I always look at this and get strength from what you had written. Such a small thing. I was telling Sophia this morning that if I have to describe Tasneem, she was more like that French bread with a hard crust. Hardest the crust, the best it is supposed to be, but a super soft inside. Those who didn't know her well would have thought that she was the one who was very forthright, who was someone who could call a spade, which is one of the most rarest of the rare things now. But at the same time, very stern, very firm. But she was an intensely emotional person. And that also gave her the courage of conviction. When you look at emotions and convictions, you realize that there is a direct connect between the two. Convictions are derived from your emotions. And nobody did that better than Tasneem. She was a fighter. And I didn't know how she succumbed to this wretched illness. When Sangeeta told me she's back home, I told Sangeeta that, look, I told you she was a fighter. No strand of pneumonia can take her away from us. She gave up, leaving her completely bereft, desolate. At the same time, it gives us a reason to celebrate the short life of an individual who has left an indelible mark not only on her students, but anyone who met her. And I'm saying this with anyone underlined. She would leave a lasting impression. She had qualities of a human being which are fast disappearing from the present world. She did not want anyone to even think of helping her out because she didn't like deserving some empathy or sympathy from someone because of her disabilities. Many a times when I came out of my house and she used to walk in after parking her car at Walnut Gate, we were walking together, but I dare not ask her to give me her huge bag with lots of books. I knew that she would not take it very lightly. She was an independent person. She had the ability to not only say, to call a spade, as I said earlier, she also had the ability to identify the good things in good students, which is again a very, very rare thing amongst teachers. She knew them personally. She could tell you who is what. And diligent to the limit that whenever we were left with funds at the end of the year to buy books for the library, and we had so many booksellers coming and thronging us from all the sides, and we would tell Tasneem, you please decide, buy a few books. Said, no, this will be a waste of money. Nothing doing. We must wait and buy something more profound than what is being shown here. She was not willing to compromise. I am also trying to come to terms with the loss. It's a personal loss. It's a loss for the college. But I know that Tasneem, you're going to be living in many of those whom you have taught, whom you have interacted with, whom you have lived with, and you will be there, always be there.
I would like to invite our principal, Professor John Burgess, to share a few words with us. Sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to the immediate family members of Tasneem. Good afternoon to the larger family members of Tasneem. We are gathered here today to remember a colleague, a teacher, a friend, and a family member. Dr. Tasneem Suhrawardy was a part of the Stephens family from the 80s when she was a student till the time she passed away a few weeks ago. During that time, she had proved herself both as a student and as a teacher. Mark Antony in Shakespeare's Julius Caesar says, "The evil that men do live after them, and the good is often interred with their bones." Today we've come here, and all of us here are proof that that line is not true. The good that people do in their personal lives as well as in their professional lives is often remembered, is often continued in the lives of those who love them. And therefore, it is not true to say that our loved ones are not there with us, because we have been influenced in so many ways. And each one of you know how much Tasneem has influenced each one of you. And therefore, when you remember and when you continue to do things that she would have done, perhaps in different ways, but nevertheless what she would have done, perhaps read a book, go to a reference that she had made, or in some cases even teach, then we know that our loved ones, including Tasneem, is very much alive. Therefore, today is an occasion for us to be grateful for the life of our dear friend, colleague, and teacher. And it is also an occasion for us to remember to make the most of the time that we have, to do as much good as we can in the time that is given to us. My own association with Tasneem goes back to the 90s when both of us were non-permanent teachers here. She in the history department, me in the English department. And my memories of Tasneem are very fond and happy memories because there used to be a small bunch of young teachers who had just joined the college, and we used to have lots of fun. Tasneem, Sanjay, who's now teaching at KM College, Shiv Shankar Menon, and myself. And we used to have great fun sharing our thoughts, pulling each other's legs. And those are the memories that I still very fondly carry with her, even after my association with her moved to that of principal and colleague. When her health started failing, Tasneem would nevertheless, in spite of her physical difficulties, try as much as possible to come to college. And she has shared with me on several occasions how important it was for her to come to college to re-energize herself. I'm sorry that she has gone away in physical form from all of us, and in her passing away, college has lost a very good teacher. I offer my prayers for peace to Tasneem's soul and comfort for her grieving family and for all of us, and also strength for all of us and courage to continue the good work that she has dropped into each one of our lives. Thank you.
We have several friends, batchmates, colleagues, and students of ma'am here with us. I would like to invite Mr. Subhendu Jyoti Sinha to share his memories of her. Sir.
So the class of 1986, who joined the college in 1983, 50 of us, history, 13 beautiful girls and 37 strong boys. We walked into the same corridor. We were seated somewhere there, and Tasneem was right in the front. Absolutely calibrated in her words, wearing beatific smile, and so thoughtful and concerned for her friends from day one. That is how the journey began. So many years have passed, almost over 40 years. Out of the 50, we have lost 5 of us, almost 10%. This October was extremely excruciating for us because 2 of our batchmates, they ran into very, very serious medical trouble. One was, of course, Tasneem, and we had another one who is still struggling, Pankaj Rag. We were keeping our fingers crossed to inform you that we have got a very strong, cohesive WhatsApp group, like a child, where we fight every day. By the evening, one of us get irritated and leave the WhatsApp group only to join next day. This is how the entire group, that is how we grow. But this October was, as I said, it was very strenuous. We were keeping our fingers crossed. And on 25th of December, on the day of Xmas, we started getting news that probably it would be difficult for Tasneem to pull through. As Malay sir said that she has been a fighter, we were thinking that, okay, this happens, and as both of them have pulled through through such difficult situations, we were thinking that probably the same would happen, but it was not to be. And next day, number of batchmates, Shailaja is there, Navina is there, Ashish, and another Ashish, Dr. Rohit Vanchu was there. All of us, we were at Media burial ground to see her laid to rest. She has been outstanding, really. And each of the batchmates that we have, all of them have kind of very special condolence for and appreciation for Tasneem. Just to maybe we compile them together and send across to the family members and the college authorities. But I feel like reading one from Ashish. This is based an adaptation from A Does by Shelley. Rough wind that moanest loud, grief is too sad for the song, wild wind when sudden cloud knells all night long, sad storm whose tears are vain, bare woods whose branches strain, deep caves and airy main. I wail that she has gone. Rest in peace, my dear sister and friend Tasneem. That was the class that we belonged to. Life took us to different places. And as I say, that in Hindu, there is a hierarchy of gods. So if you are a Stephanian, that means Brahma, the creator, has himself scripted your fate. If you happen to be faculty in Stephens, that is a super specialist. So Saraswati herself has scripted that you be here. But if you have been a student and a faculty, that means Vishnu himself, which occasionally he does, he decides to pen it down that you be here. And Tasneem, definitely, she was one of the tallest in our class. I am sure for the entire class of 1986, she will continue to be the inspiration. She will be the lighthouse. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now we have Anushka Roy, a student from the current third year batch of history, who would like to pay her respects to ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. They say grief and love are intertwined, but the person we are all gathered here for today taught me that to love means to care, to keep moving forward with passion and with relentless efforts, no matter what. She was never loud, never agitated, or never to hustle about what she wanted to do or what she was doing. But she used to go on quietly, determined to do whatever task she had taken on, and would not stop until she had finished. I remember the first lecture we had in her in the third semester. One of the first things she told us was that we must behave, be very quiet, and pay complete attention. She wouldn't take it any other way. She warned us. She was that I'm infamous for my temper and I'm known for throwing people out. So you better behave or I'll do that to you. But quite contrarily, she rarely ever got angry on us. No matter how many times we asked the most basic of questions or the simplest of things or the simplest of references, she kept explaining it to us again and again. I remember I used to sit on the first bench, and the first week that we had lectures with her, I was afraid of sitting there because she'd announced she was known for her temper, and everyone used to say, you must be very careful with Dr. Suhrawardy. Do not try to trifle around or anything. But very soon, as she taught us, I got lost in the world of medieval Persian sources. That's the first thing she used to teach us always. And as she unraveled its layers, I was lost in history classes, forgot about all my fear, and we used to fight for the first bench every day in her class. And most often, before her lectures in room B, we had our lectures in room R. And that was the class we left the first from room R. We'd run down the stairs, all of us fighting for the first 1 or 2 benches to listen as much as possible and absorb as much as possible. But what struck me more than all of this was a phrase with which she often answered our queries. We often went to her with questions, and I also heard other students too. We'd ask her, if we could do this, do you think we can do it? Do you think we can write this out? Should we apply it there or for something else? Can we do this? Will you help us? Her reply always was, why not? Why not try that? Why not try this? Why do you think we wouldn't help? Or something like that. And it gave me immense strength and hope. As a second-year student struggling in college with 5 new subjects, not knowing if I was learning anything, not knowing where I was going, just trying to understand all the historiography heaped on me, her words gave me immense strength and hope that seemed otherwise lost. And it just wasn't her words, it was her actions and her persona in class, which evoked awe and is very difficult to capture in words. I remember one of the days, she came to class choking with tears. She had learnt of some very hurtful and unkind words said to her. She was really upset. But she gathered herself together within minutes and resumed teaching us. She never got angry, never complained, was never bitter. Just said one thing to us: try to be kinder people and try to be stronger. That's all she said. She taught me the value of believing in ourselves, keep doing what we thought was very important and crucial, regardless of the circumstances. Her insistence on the relevance, the importance, and the quality of her craft, of writing history until the very last day, of caring for her students until the very end, her dedication to work and to life is how I want to remember her. To me, she was a beacon of love, hope, strength, determination, and probably of life itself. May she rest in peace.
I would like to invite Professor Shahid Amin to share a few words with us.
Good afternoon. Like many of you here who did history, I too came into room number B, but way back in 1967. There were some very distinguished photographs of people who meant so much to us and, in a sense, to the wider world of history. There was T.G. Spear, the legendary historian who then went back to Cambridge, a person who was charged with giving the names to all the roads of New Delhi. There was Dr. Kapadia, who taught for many, many years. There was my father, Muhammad Amin. And now, then again, there's Mr. Dwivedi. And I'm sure after this meeting and subsequently, there would be another photograph there in room B, reminding us who knew her and all of you who have known her and would come to know, those who are not here, what it means and what it does if you are a committed teacher in this institution, especially if you are following in the footsteps of very distinguished teachers and not so bad students who have followed him. Tasneem, I came to know her very early, and even though I'd left college, and sometimes it was difficult to get past the darbans at the gate without, fully, showing your identity, I would come to the staff room and talk to her, Sangeeta, Malay, and several other people. And we lived in the present and we also lived in the past. And I think the other big thing about the college community, especially the historians, is that they live both in the past and in the present. Tasneem came from a very distinguished family. In fact, her surname carries the name of very distinguished, important Sufi silsila of India and Central Asia. And she then did two very interesting research projects. One in Delhi University on humor, satire, and wit during the Mughal period, which has now emerged as a major subfield within the historiography of Shah Jahanabad and elsewhere. And rightly so, because there was such a top-heavy administration and policing of everything in terms of etiquette and so on, that it didn't completely flatten the subject population, but gave rise to a whole new genre of satire and humor, which was very much a part of the city life of these people, making fun of the king and of junior functionaries of the state. Then she went over to JNU and worked with Seema Alvi and also one of the greatest historians of medieval India that we have today, Muzaffar Alam, and worked on this very crucial relationship, which is often forgotten, between Central Asia and North India. The relations did not stop with Babur coming and being buried in Lahore. There was a steady stream of nobles and scholars and so on coming into North India, and they settled down not only in the major cities but also in qasbas, major rural and intellectual centers of the empire. I rang up Muzaffar in the morning, and he knew the news, and I said, I'm going there to the memorial meeting, and he said, please convey this basic message that the knowledge that is required and is to be imparted in a major discipline or sub-discipline of history requires not only a pedagogical aspect, but a scholarly one. It's only then that, shall we say in a lighter vein, you can look up from your notes and address the class more generally. So this is to say that I'll miss Tasneem, as all of you would, and her being over here and struggling and then passing away just shows how important the community of St. Stephen's is and how it remembers people who come, stay, and even when they leave.
I would like to invite Dr. Ashutosh Dayal Mathur, Head Department of Sanskrit, to read a passage from the Bhagavad Gita.
This is verse 40 from chapter 6. Parth naiveha namutra vinashastasya vidyate nahi kalyanakrit kaschit durgatim tata gacchati. What good you do survives in this world and the other. For people remember you for your good deeds even much after you are gone. And your good deeds also fetch good rewards in the other world. A person who does good never faces any unhappy consequences because for that person, action itself is the reward. Yatha deepo nivatastho nengate sopama smrita yogino yatachittasya yunjato yogamatmanah. A person who is committed to his yoga, that is his duty, keeps his mind under perfect control. His mind does not waver at all, like the flame of a lamp kept in a breezeless place. सक्तः कर्माण्य विद्वांसो यथा कुर्वन्ति भारत कुर्याद् विद्वांस तथा सक्तः चिकीर्षुः लोकसंग्रहम्. The ignorant indulge in various acts out of attachment for selfish results. A wise person does all these for the purpose of doing a larger good. The wise might do what the ignorant do, but they do it very differently with a very different motivation.
We have two former students of Dr. Suhrawardy, now colleagues in the Department of History, who would like to pay their respects to her, Dr. Sudipto Basu, Dr. Gina Sarah Jacob.
Good afternoon, everyone. We gather here this solemn occasion to remember Dr. Suhrawardy, who's been my teacher as well as a colleague. I came into contact with Dr. Suhrawardy in the year 2007 while working as part of the team preparing for the I.H. Qureshi Memorial Lecture, but got to know her better, much better, in the second year as her student, and she started teaching the Delhi Sultanate paper. And as one of our students said, and hers was the class which used to take place in room B as well in our time also in room R. The first benches of the classes were the really sought after benches. We always used to try to rush into the class so that one could grab the first row of seats. And the way, the passion with which she taught medieval Indian history, the Delhi Sultanate paper as well as the Mughal paper, the students really got into the groove in that paper. My personal experience being that in these 2 years, I got so immersed in medieval Indian history, especially by the end of the third year, that I told ma'am that, I would love to actually work on something. It's my failure that I couldn't carry on with medieval Indian history later on. But one example is that during the October break that used to have, the 15-day break, she gave me this encouragement that for your project, why don't you do a special paper on Mughal etiquette, court etiquette? And for that, and I was so passionate about medieval Indian history just because of the way she taught that paper, that I sat in those 15 days, not only in college libraries, but also in the National Museum Library and the ICHR libraries, looking up new books, new research to write this project and make this presentation on Mughal court etiquette. In MA, when we joined the masters, it was a big class of 300 students. And the person who became my and a couple of my friends connect with college, because you're getting into the bigger world, was Dr. Suhrawardy. Always looking forward to her class on medieval societies and Islamic lands. I off and on kept in touch with her over a period of time during my MPhil, also off and on meeting at social gatherings and PhD, and then again got to interact with her when I joined here as faculty way back in 2019, guiding me in the first couple of semesters, telling me how to go about things, how to go, what you should do, what you should not do. And she always used to say one thing, right during my student days as well as during my time as a teacher, that it beyond the point, everything boils down to your hard work and your sincerity. If you are hardworking, if you are sincere, ultimately, it might take time, ultimately you'll succeed and you'll reach your goal. I remember when I was awarded my PhD, so during the pandemic period, in 2020, this was an online Viva, and after the Viva happened, I got the mail from the university that your PhD has been awarded and you've passed your Viva. I made a call. She was so happy that she was the first one to announce in the department that he has got the. That was a gesture that really touched me. So rest in peace, ma'am, and we'll all miss you, but you'll remain in our hearts. Thank you.
Good afternoon to everyone who has come here today to remember a beloved sister, teacher, friend, and colleague, Dr. Tasneem Suhrawardy. It's very difficult to think about someone who was here with us till just a few weeks back in the past tense. Tasneem ma'am was my teacher and my colleague. I don't think I'll ever get used to saying that, because even after joining here to teach, I would always turn into my old student self around her, trying hard not to sound too silly in front of my teacher. Tasneem ma'am opened up the world of medieval Indian history for thousands of students who have had the opportunity to be in her class. She was able to captivate an entire classroom with her scholarship and command over the subject. Her classes provided a solid foundation that gave so many of her students, including me, the confidence to study and research medieval Indian history. As a student, as others have also said, one encounters Tasneem ma'am's classes for the first time in the second year. I think that to an average second-year student, she was a very daunting figure. She came across as formidable and no-nonsense. I recall being most worried about my tutorials. With only 8 people in a group, I always made sure to be prepared for my tutorials and even made a pact with a friend to do group study before the tutes. But it was hard to be afraid of her for too long. When I was in my second year, as Shudipto just mentioned, the department was preparing for the I.H. Qureshi lecture. Some of us from the History Society back then were sitting in the history room with the faculty, putting the invitation letters together. It was my first experience of hanging out with the faculty beyond the classroom, and I remember being dumbstruck to see the very firm and cool manner that ma'am carried to class melt away in the banter, and watching ma'am giggle, turn red, laugh, and light up. Tasneem ma'am definitely caught the eye in many ways. I remember a senior who was a friend asking me whether I was enjoying my second year classes, and I told them that I was really enjoying the medieval history paper. And they responded by saying, yes, ma'am's classes are very nice, but have you seen her earrings? Her collection is amazing. And ever since then, I've surreptitiously always checked out her earrings till the last time we met. I wonder if she ever noticed. My third year in college was the time when I got to see Tasneem ma'am's tenacity in the face of adversity. She taught me a valuable lesson about being a teacher and the relationship between a teacher and her students. She spoke to us about the trust and the bond she believed she shared with her classroom. This classroom was her safe haven. We didn't have to agree with each other, but she told us that we could hash things out in the class. She overcame those difficult days with the support of her family, her friends and colleagues, and her students, and left behind the most valuable lesson for anyone who aspires to be a teacher. She taught forgiveness. Where it was easy to be petty and vindictive, she chose to be understanding and kind. Her love for her students was incredible, and I am immensely privileged to have experienced it firsthand. While her passing leaves us with an emptiness and sorrow that cannot be overcome, I would like to take this opportunity to be grateful for her life, which she shared with us. A wonderful teacher, a great colleague, and forever our dearest Tasneem ma'am.
I would like to invite Mr. Yash Gandhi to share his memories of ma'am with us.
Good afternoon, Principal Sir, Nilofer Ma'am, family members, Malay Sir, Sangeeta Ma'am, Dr. Gopalan, and Sudipto and Gina was my first president in History Society in the same time, which she just mentioned. Of course, I think everyone's very sad, stunned, shocked. But I want to begin with when I received the news. I read something which Malay Sir posted on Facebook, which struck with me. He wrote, "Why were you in such a hurry? Why did you have to leave us in a jiffy?" And this stayed with me because she was someone who did everything perfectly, everything extremely perfectly. So it was like if she wouldn't complete her course on time, she would take extra classes. So if she would stretch that. So why would she have to leave us so much in a hurry? And as he said, so much in a jiffy. So that's something which I said to myself. And so I think everyone's talked about her academic brilliance, her what she was as a person. For us, I think, when we all came from school, college suddenly was a breath of a lot of fresh air where we could take some some liberties here, there, in freedom. And coming back to Tasneem Ma'am's class was again a little reminder of school. And the makers of the timetable in our college, at least for the history people, had a good sense. So they always put Tasneem Ma'am at 8:40. So you could not take any risk, cold wave, heat wave, rain wave, anything. So you should be there by 8:35. So that was a good mechanism, the college people, at least with the history people. So yeah, that was interesting. And I want to talk about just very briefly on what she meant to all of us, at least to all of us who were there. I think first and foremost, I think she taught us that have an opinion and express yourself without fear. And that's one thing I will always take back from her in classes, in assignments, in tutorials, whenever we interacted. I think that's something which I will greatly cherish. That's something she taught me. She was, I would say, the most democratic of people I've met. And I can tell you that she and me perhaps agreed on not many things when it came to politics or anything of that sort. But that never impacted us, our relationship, our affection. And so I think that's something which I really admired about her. And I think she taught us, again, what rigor is. As I told you, I mean, you may feel that it is hot, it is cold, it is this, it is that, but she would be there for her 8:40, nothing doing, health, nothing doing. And I think her dictionary had one thing which it did not have is fear. She was not scared. In my first year, I think she faced undeserved hostilities, and it could have taken, I think a lot of people sitting in the front row would know about it. It could have impacted any of us. It did not impact her, and I think it only made her stronger. So I think that's one thing which I learned. And I think inbuilt quality control mechanism. I think Gina just talked about IH Qureshi. When we had IH Qureshi in 2009, she was not the staff advisor, but she was very much there. And I remember this because that time I think Sumit Guha had come for IH Qureshi, and there were a few people lost in the corridor. So she called me and said that, you are doing nothing. I said, "Ma'am, kya hua?" Like, no, these are people who are languishing. Obviously, your preparation is not very good. Why don't you do this? So inbuilt quality control mechanism was very, very, very good. I'll end with one personal experience of mine. This is again in 2009 in July. Our second year results came and my marks were 45%. And I was stunned. I never thought that could be my marks. A lot of people said, no, it could have been also. I said, no, I don't think so. And so I didn't know who to go to. So I went to her. I said that this is the situation and I don't know what's happening. So she said, okay, don't worry. Tomorrow, the two of us will go to the university and we will see what happens. And that time, the university dean of examination was Professor Rahman. I think he was the dean of examinations. And so we stood in the line of the room. And when we entered, he said, he looked at us like, why were you waiting outside? She said, no, I've not come here for any official work. I've come here for personal work. One of my students has a marks discrepancy. So I have come here to request you to look at it. And she didn't move. And then, of course, it so happened that the last 4 people in the class, since my name starts from Y, we were marked absent. So luckily, I think things worked out. But I mean, if I couldn't have imagined this happening in any, I mean, it's to have a faculty member come with you, stand with you in the line for the university and do that. So this was just a glimpse of, I've had, after college, I've kept in touch. Her nephew's wedding program also I had gone. I've been a part of a lot of happy occasions of her life, and it's just very sad that we are here in such a way. But I think all of us will remember her for her nature, her academics, her firmness, her kindness, her everything. So yeah, I pay my tributes to her. Om Shanti.
May I ask Mr. Mahima Patre to share memories of his time with Dr. Suhrawardy with us? I think Mr. Ray is not here yet. Mr. Dias Anthony, a former student and colleague from the Department of History, will now read a message from Mr. Sandeep Dikshit.
Message from Mr. Sandeep Dikshit, former student, batch of 1985. 40 years ago, I met Tasneem, or Tess as I and others always refer to her, and gradually got to know her as a junior, then as a fellow student, and then as a dear friend. Over the next 3 to 4 years, while you remember and witness your friends and colleagues grow, mature and change, there are some that grow on you, as their character, as their intellect, their attitude to life and people is slowly discovered by you. And those become friends and companions. In a way, few are. Tasneem became someone I grew extremely fond of and admired. In years since, as she became a formidable teacher in this college, a historian of excellence in scholarship, our friendship also grew. I can never forget one incident that moved me to tears. When I was fighting my first election campaign and was campaigning on a truck in Mayur Vihar area, I heard a voice from a distance, but very familiar, pretty early in the morning. As I looked, I saw Tasneem with some papers in her hand, furiously waving at me, and having seen each other, moving on to climb up the stairs. When I tried to find out why Tasneem was in such a hurry, I was told that she was campaigning for me. She had collected some campaign literature and was doing so on her own. That was a moment that I felt blessed, and I could never fully describe the emotions I felt. I often meet students who had been taught by her, and was a delight to hear what they thought of her. She left a mark on them that few teachers at that level of teaching do. Made me so proud. Subsequently, we met, not very often, but we had fun together, spoke and chatted on issues of common interest, and there was not a time that she did not leave you without making an impression of how wonderful and eminent a person she was. The many times we could not meet, we missed her, and now we miss her much more. Tess, you went so soon. It pains, and yet your wonderful and proud memories make us start smiling again. Miss you, Tasneem.
I would like to call upon Ms. Pratisha Chakrabarti from third year history class who wants to pay her respects to Dr. Suhrawardy.
Due to the pandemic, our entire first semester was online, and we were told to come to Delhi at very short notice. Having moved cities at a week's notice, I always felt a strange sense of alienation from Delhi. By the beginning of my second year, I was convinced I would never grow to like this city. And then Tasneem ma'am brought it alive. The sights, smells, splendors of Chandni Chowk, of Hauz Khas, Fatehpur Sikri, Lal Killa, they wafted into room B as Tasneem ma'am spoke, treating her source material with the confident familiarity accorded to an old friend. Ma'am's wonderfully structured lectures were replete with countless fascinating anecdotes, and why that's important is because it made humans out of these figures of epic, historic, mythic proportions. In teaching us why Badauni wrote what he did or why Jahangir is not what he is made out to be, Tasneem ma'am taught us that history as a discipline is an exercise in empathy, cultivated through impeccable scholarship. Empathy that is exercised both within and outside the classroom, a firm reminder to question before we blindly believe that which tells us to hate, whether it is a court chronicle from the 17th century or a contemporary film. Dr. Suhrawardy led us through medieval India with unmatchable knowledge, poise, and wit. Having approached her desk after class one day to very selfishly grumble about how no one takes me exploring Delhi, she paused in packing her thermos and her bag. She looked at me over the tops of her spectacles and said, as if it was the most obvious thing on the planet, if no one goes with you to Old Delhi, you go alone. If you're lost, just give me a call. I'm always here. Tasneem ma'am became and will unquestionably remain my ultimate guide on how to be a good scholar, a good professor, and the kindest and strongest of persons.
I would like to invite Mr. Syed Jafar Alam, a former student of Dr. Suhrawardy, to come up and share memories of his time with her. Mr. Alam is not here with us. Okay. I would like to invite Mr. Shamim Ahmed, Head Department of Urdu, to read a passage from Quran.
May I request you to please stand? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds, most gracious, most merciful. Master of the day of judgment, Thee do we worship, and Thine aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom Thou hast bestowed Thy grace, those whose portion is not wrath, and who go not astray. Ameen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama sallaita ala Ibrahima wa ala ali Ibrahima innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama barakta ala Ibrahima wa ala ali Ibrahima innaka Hamidum Majid. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina azaban nar. Rabbana zalamna anfusana wa illam taghfir lana wa tarhamna lanakunanna min al khasirin. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Amin. Please be seated.
We have Tasneem ma'am's family with us. I would like to invite her sister, Ms. Nilofar Suhrawardy, to share a few words with us.
Good afternoon, everybody. I don't know, I don't have any words to say. It's a great feeling to hear so many things about her. I guess I just can say thank you from up Tasneem there that she's left such a legacy behind. Thank you on behalf of my immediate family members, my nephew Atif Suhrawardy and Shamama Bhabi who are here, and all my immediate family members. I'd like to thank you all, the college, the friends, the students, the matchmates, who it seems are going to continue the legacy left behind this team. And that indeed is a matter of great, maybe, pride for us. She would have loved it if she was here with us, hearing so many words, hearing what the students, what her colleagues, what her friends have to say. But right now, yes, I would also like to say thank you to all of you again, her friends, colleagues, batchmates, and also to the blood donors, to the neighbors, to everybody. If I've forgotten anybody, I'm sorry about that. But then this has been one of the most challenging phases of our life, and you all have helped us pull through it thick and thin. It's great to know that you've been with us and you're still with us. Thank you very much. May her legacy be continued as you've all said. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Like so many of us in this room, my most enduring memory of Tasneem ma'am is of being in her class in room B and R, listening to her with rapt attention as she introduced us to the medieval world, one source, one debate, one anecdote at a time. She was one of those rare teachers who could transport you to another period in history with a seemingly innocuous, even cursory sentence. My first memory of meeting her, however, is from the undergraduate interview. She was on the panel. I remember being very nervous, especially when another panelist had asked me a question which made me falter a bit. As I scrambled to put together my response, I don't know if she saw that, but she asked me, "Which historical monument did you visit last?" Suddenly, I had a lot to say. She put me at ease, and as I remember, the rest of the interview went well, I think. In all the years I knew her, especially after I joined the department here 7 years ago, she was a mentor, she was a true well-wisher who continued to guide me, who instilled in me a new appreciation for my chosen subject after every conversation I had with her. She could be intimidating at times, a stern-faced disciplinarian who demanded that you do your best, or at least you try. But so often, as her students and colleagues, we saw glimpses of her humor, wit, the light in her eyes when she spoke about her work, or a former student who had done well. I would like to thank all of you for being here with us. We saw glimpses of a life well lived, deep connections she had forged with so many of us here, how much she gave to her students in and out of the classroom, her abiding, unflailing love for her subject and our college. Dear ma'am, we miss you. We wish you farewell in your journey to eternity. You will always be in our hearts and memory. It was a great privilege to be here with all of you, remembering our beloved Dr. Suhrawardy. May I request everyone to stand up for the hymn, and please join us later for refreshments on the mess lawn. Thank you.
we invite all of you for tea in the dining hall lawns. Please do join us. Thank you.